Virtue ethics. Virtue ethics, we need to look at two main guys, Aristotle and Alasdair MacIntyre in the 20th century. Aristotle said that a virtue is a golden mean between two vices. So, for instance, cowardice and recklessness are two vices of which courage is in the middle. We should be developing virtues to become better people. It's not about, virtue isn't about individual actions and becoming good according to those actions, but it's actually about being the right sort of person. And to be the right sort of person inevitably leads us to eudaimonia. It leads us to human flourishing. We become better as a human race, not just for ourselves, but that's the aim, the supreme good, the supreme aim of virtue ethics. And therefore, every decision we make should be made thinking of the greater aim of eudaimonia. How do we become a better person? And how do we use those virtues to develop this eudaimonia? So Aristotle comes up with 12 moral virtues and 9 intellectual virtues according to the rational and irrational parts of the soul. We don't need to know too much about that, but that's what we need to just mention. 20th century virtue theory was developed by Anscombe, but predominantly by Alasdair MacIntyre in his book After Virtue in 1980. This book, he urged in this book that we go back to the virtues when we're doing ethics. He says we're a mess. The moral mess of the Enlightenment period has left us in a position where we no longer are sure about how to do ethics. He calls it the Enlightenment project has failed. And he says it's failed because we have people like Bentham telling us that we should act out of pleasure. We got people like Kant telling us to act out of goodwill. We've got all these different theories coming along being rational, and yet we've forgotten what ethics is really about. Ethics is about being the right sort of person. We shouldn't be separating the action and dissecting those things from real life. It's about being the right sort of person, and therefore MacIntyre urges us to go back to the virtues. He does a historical analysis of the last 2,000-3,000 years, and he says, you can see, everyone always knew that to be ethical was to be the right sort of person, so that in Homer's Odyssey, it's a book of ethics telling us that strength and courage and cunning are the virtues that we need to develop in that society. Replaced in the Athens city-state by temperance, fortitude and justice, and replaced in the medieval period by love, faith and hope. He does this historical analysis to show us we need to go back to the virtues. We've lost sight of what ethics is about. It's no wonder we're in a mess, ethically, where people have no idea how to make decisions based on the consequences or based on the action. We need to go back to the character, developing the character, being the right sort of person. Virtue ethics gives strong motivations for doing the right thing, because we're not just focused on that individual act, we're actually focused on the longer term aim of virtues and then eudaimonia. So if I get up in the morning, I could so easily just think, I'd love to have 10 more minutes in bed. But if I say, no, I want to be the kind of guy who's disciplined, well, it gives me the motivation to say, if I do it this time, it's going to make it easier next time. And then I'll develop a habit. If I develop a habit, I might develop a character, and then it's part of who I am. That guy is really disciplined. Why? Because he's practiced it over time. It gives a great strong motivation. And it also recognises that we aren't just going to be good overnight, so that people take time. No one's going to become a concert pianist who's never played the piano before, however talented you are. These things take time. We need to develop the characteristics, the virtues, which are going to help us to become that better person. MacIntyre says that actually the virtues depend on the culture that we're in, but we need to go back to the virtues. There are many problems with this theory, of which some are clear. How do we know what to do in a particular situation? Vague rules such as be such a person, develop the virtues, are difficult. Another problem, of course, is that how do we know what virtues to develop? If it depends on the culture, does that slip into relativist ethics? And also, which virtues are universal? Is it a universal system at all? Can it be? If not, is that problematic? So virtue ethics, a great motivation for moral behaviour, based not on the action itself, but on being the right sort of person. A very different system of ethics to others, and one of great moral worth in terms of its motivation for acting and setting an example to others that hopefully other people will want to learn off. Just like Homer's Odyssey, these characters are there to teach us how we should behave, to give us a narrative of what kind of person to be.